Hello, Buckeye Nation. It's the most wonderful time of the year. As Tim pointed out with his tweet, well, wouldn't be week one if we weren't complaining about a victory. CFB is back, baby. That game on Saturday was not what most of us were expecting. So I guess we shouldn't be too surprised that Buckeye Twitter seems to be in full-blown panic mode. What do you think? Is what we saw on Saturday a reason to panic? Let's dig into this after the intro. Welcome to Buckeye Football Fangirl. If this is your first time here, my name is Lisa and I'm the gal behind this channel. I love the Ohio State Buckeyes and I tend to get a little overexcited about their games each week. If you're watching this, I'm going to assume that you might love the Buckeyes just as much as I do. So thank you so much for tuning in. You guys, that was a weird game. Raise your hand if you had Chip Trayanum being the top running back with the most yards at the end of the game on your bingo card. No? Okay. How about if you thought Cade Stover would have the most receiving yards? Did anyone think Marvin Harrison Jr. and Emeka Egbuka would both have under 20 yards apiece? Anyone? I sure didn't. We are all so used to watching a high-powered offense take over the field that it is straight up weird when they don't. It feels like something is wrong. We also heard Day talk all offseason about playing aggressive, and it sure didn't feel like they did that on Saturday. There were weird play calls all up and down that game. I'm not gonna lie, it was hard for me to walk away from that game feeling positive about the team after feeling like they rode the struggle bus against Indiana. But Foddy Hastings tweeted something that stopped me in my tracks and made me think. It was a simple tweet. Nothing fancy, but it was the first of what made my view of this past game on Saturday take a major shift. He tweeted, "Yes, with this D, we don't need 50 points a game to win." Hold up, what? What if the Buckeyes don't need to score a million bajillion points to win because the defense just shuts down opposing teams? What if the defense does their job? No, not just does their job, but excels at their job and is, gasp, better than the offense? There's a thought we haven't collectively had as a fan base in quite some time. As Chuck D pointed out though on Twitter, the Ohio State defense held an opponent to 3 points or less for the first time since 2019. And as Justin Jean tweeted, the defense held Indiana to 153 total yards. Now, I want you to remember those two numbers, 3 points and 153 yards, because you guys, this is actually huge. I had to stop what I was doing when I saw these and go back and dig up some old stats to see just how huge this might be. Now imagine me on a Saturday evening after the game, digging through websites to try to find some context to put these numbers into. And oh, did I find some context? This is going to expose a bit of the nerd inside of me, but I took what I found and I put them into some pretty charts to show you. I only went back about 5 years or so, but I think I speak for all of us in saying that the defense bottomed out in about 2020 and has slowly been improving since then. So 5 years does give some context for both good and bad defenses. If you look back over these past 5 years, there are only 3 times the defense kept an opponent to only 3 points or less, highlighted in the light red in the table. And there are only 4 times the Ohio State defense has limited opposing offenses to fewer yards, highlighted in the darker red in the table. So, what does this mean? Well, honestly, at this point, nothing. We need to see more games. Plus, with the new time clock rule change, this might mean absolutely nothing because teams are getting fewer possessions each game. But what could this mean? I'm gonna go full-blown Buckeye biased fan here on you. We could be looking at the best defense that we have seen in 5 years. Maybe even more than 5 years. We could be witnessing a wickedly good defense this year. And that possibility excites me. Yes, I know. The O-line didn't play great. There were whiffed blocks, and Indiana's defense was getting through way too easily. And it took a while for McCord to settle down and find anything close to a rhythm, but eventually he did. And O-lines typically tend to get better with time as more games go by. But there is a reason why I don't think it's time to panic just yet. Besides the fact that it's only game 1 and a lot of teams struggle in week 1 and then go on to get better from there, my nerdy statistical research has sparked a newfound hope inside my chest. Look, we're so not used to our defense possibly being better than our offense that this is a weird feeling, and I'm not quite sure what to do with it yet. But I'm looking forward to more games that should validate or disprove this hunch. Maybe I shouldn't call it a hunch just yet. Maybe it is just hope. Maybe it's just wishful thinking. But I think it also means that we shouldn't be ready to flush all our hopes and dreams down the toilet after one lackluster offensive performance just yet. Or just maybe, as Buckeye Zone 6 tweeted, Ohio State is gonna ride or die to a national championship with their defense. I think we should ride this season out and see what happens as the games roll by. Speaking of games rolling by, Youngstown State University will be rolling into Columbus next weekend. Let's talk a little bit about them. First of all, shout out to Justin from the 330 Sports Show for sending over some insight into what we are going to see on the field this weekend. If you've never checked out his show, he does a show focused on Northeast Ohio sports teams, and so you might consider him the local expert on the Penguins. The YSU Penguins are led by Coach Doug Phillips, who is entering his 4th season as head coach. While YSU has lost more games than they've won under him, with a 12-17 record, soon to become 13-17, he has actually slowly been turning things around for the program and led the team to a 7-4 record last year. He's a native of Mahoning County, which, by the way, is the same county that YSU is located in, and I'm trying real hard not to hold his high school alma mater against him. He had a brief stint at Ohio State as defensive quality control coach for then head coach Jim Tressel in 2006. He's had a variety of coaching jobs since then, but most notably, he spent some time coaching tight ends, special teams, and running backs at Cincinnati before filling the head coach role at YSU. Last weekend, the Penguins were led to a victory by quarterback Mitch Davidson, who ground his way from a walk-on player to QB1. Their leading receiver from last year, Bryce Oliver, is back, and he's hauling in passes again this year. Oliver spent his first 2 years playing at Kentucky before transferring to YSU, and he recorded receptions for 65 total yards last weekend. Tyshawn King lined up to tote the rock last weekend, and he racked up 111 yards. This was apparently a bit of a surprise to everyone, as he was starting in place of their second most effective running back last year, Draw Rushton, who was held out for injury reasons. I know they only have one game under their belt, but if YSU is going to test the Buckeyes in any way, it's looking like it might be with their run game. They leaned heavily on it to win this past weekend, racking up 302 yards on the ground, compared to 169 yards in the air. However, with the Buckeye run defense looking stout last weekend, I'm not super concerned about this. Linebacker Alex Howard caused some havoc in their game last weekend as the team's leading tackler. And last year's leading tacklers, Jordan Trowers, Quincy Linton, and Dylan Woodkey, are all back this year. So now for the big question. What exactly will this game versus YSU show us about our Buckeyes? Quite honestly, probably nothing. The Buckeyes should easily blow past Youngstown State, and as a fan base, we won't be able to pull much out of this game except for maybe a sliver of enjoyment as we watch Ohio State dominate on the field. Okay, I've got to be honest. I actually enjoy watching Ohio State bully other teams on the field. What does this say about me? Anywho, this game will give the Buckeye O-line and Kyle McCord much needed in-game reps, so that will be a huge plus. But as Dan tweeted, we won't learn much against Youngstown State, so the only thing I hope to see is Kyle McCord and the offensive line get into a rhythm as we head into an easy 2-game stretch before we get to that big bad game against Notre Dame. I'm really hoping that the confidence of the team can be built up over these next 2 weekends. But what do you guys think? Is it time to panic yet as fans? Go ahead, drop me a comment below with your thoughts on what is making you panic, if you are panicking, or if you are still as cool as a cucumber, waiting a bit longer to see how things play out. Personally, as I've alluded to, I'm not hitting the panic button yet, and Buckeye 23 sums up my stance on this pretty darn well. There's always growing pains with a new starting QB. It's to be expected. Some patience is needed. Ohio State has 2 weeks before the Notre Dame game. That gives them time to get the offense looking like what we expect it to be. It's not time to panic yet. I'll leave you all with that thought, and I'll see you on the other side of the game. OH.